Whoa, Torzvik here with a new podcast coming at ya. So, there were some problems with the Arsenio Hall, our usual recording venue. We have a lot of audio problems. Savage Armitage, he tried to work on as many as he could, but I think we kind of hit the limit as to what is going to be put out. So we're gonna work on this. We're gonna try and get to a better shape than before. We're gonna have nicer audio quality, better frames. So we're gonna get right on that and send your SSN to this address. That's all for now. Just remember to keep sending in that money. Hello, and welcome to the Retro Game Gauntlet Reviewcast, where we play video games for about a week that have been randomly decided for us, and then we talk about them. I'm Torzvik, and I'm here with Septopus.
Hello.
Alright, so it's been a while since our last recording. There's been a lot that's gone on. I've had to go down to LA, and then Septopus, you got sick.
Well, first I was lazy, then I was busy, and then I was sick. So basically all three of those things, like one after the other, made sure that I would never actually play my game. And I kept dreading it because I was like, oh boy, this game's going to be long. I beat it in under like 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help that we went for Sega CD because it requires a little bit more effort to get it to work. In fact, the first game I rolled up didn't run at all. I was doing something wrong.
I didn't have any issues when it came to that. So
yeah,
it more or less just ran fine. I had all the what you call them, not ISOs, but
the bins and queues.
Yeah, the bin. I had my bins and queues all lined up.
Yeah. The first one I had gotten, with like the Sherlock Holmes one, there was something wrong with it, and I saw that other people were saying that the upload, it doesn't work right. And I don't know if it's something wrong with the emulator, or if it's something wrong with the upload. I went to multiple uploads, and I was getting the same problem.
Maybe it's this FMV footage is fucking garbage.
But Mark Hamill. Yeah,
okay. Ooh, wow, one game.
Well, what about the Dune game that has John Rhys Davies?
I don't even know about that one.
You don't know about that? Oh, it's got John Rhys Davies.
Is this the RTS Dune?
Yeah, I believe it's the RTS Dune. The PC version, like there's a re-release version of it that had FMV like interludes. Hey kids, look it up.
I won't.
Now, starting off with sweeps.
Season 2. We do have to announce a very tragic death of the original VR roller.
Oh
that we
yeah.
used to decide our random games.
Yeah.
Rip that. Guy forgot to pay a server. So sorry, 4chan's VR. You're no longer our friend. Our new friend is now some Russian bloke.
Hey, well, I got a surprise for you. Because we don't have to go to the Russian guy's site, especially because it has a tendency to roll lots of Japanese games, I noticed. I don't know if you clicked it a few times.
That's what I was going to say. It just piles them all together.
I do have another website that has the Retro Game Gauntlet on it. Someone ripped the source code and put it up somewhere else. And if that goes down as well, I have the source code and I can just like run it on my own.
All right, then. New website, you're our friend.
new website. It doesn't have the link to VR, I don't think, on it. It just I'm gonna pull it up real quick. It has the link to the original page, but if I click the original page, it's ripperoonie. It's dead as bread. Anyway, so yeah, as you might have gathered from just us jabbering first, we did Sega CDs, the superior Sega console. It's generally considered that the Genesis sound chip is inferior to the Super Nintendo sound chip.
It has, if anything.
Yeah, it's older. There are certain games that I always talk about actually do sound better with it. Specifically games that were supposed to be on Sega. Whenever it's multi-platform, it almost always sounds better on the Super Nintendo unless it's Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim does sound cooler on the Sega, but I think it fits like the tone. Do you feel like Sega, after the Genesis, in almost every, I can't say for the 32X, but they always try to go for superior sound quality than everyone else?
That's I don't know if I necessarily see that. I mean, obviously the benefits of CD platform is that you can do the music as much better quality than you could ever before.
Well, what I was going to say is even up till Dreamcast. Dreamcast has a lot of things that are known for their soundtracks. Like, that's just the most obvious example is Jet Set Radio. You know, compared to the other consoles that were out at the time, like, you know, PlayStation and such. PlayStation does not have a bit of...
I didn't even know Jet Set was on Saturn.
Did I say Saturn? I thought I said Dreamcast.
Yeah. Well, you might have said both. I don't know.
I'm not paying... You're not paying any attention. You're doing your own thing over there. You're watching the world's biggest Rubik's Cube get made.
No, applying on chapstick. Been chewing there. Lips get chapped when you've had a fever for over a week.
The Sega CD has pretty well-designed music, and I think you noticed that your game had superior music too.
Ooh, yeah, my game makes full use of the ability to now have, you know, original music scores.
Yeah. Anyway, so the game that I played was Lunar, Eternal Blue, which is a JRPG. Now, usually when we do the podcast here, it's, you know, kind of, you know, find games that people might not have heard of or are cult or whatever, and tell you if they're worth checking out or not. This one is going to come with a big thing, and that this game is anime as fuck. Like, we're talking full on. Everyone is the pixie from? Was it like Berserk?
Oh, what you're talking about, because you've never seen any material from Berserk.
No, well, I'm trying to think of an equivalent thereof. Yes.
That are very cute
and loud. They have high pitched, like fucking puar and shit like that from Dragon Ball. You're gonna get a face full of that like really early on, and the game is not gonna let up. You're gonna have all the jokes of where they go to the bathhouse and the boys try and peep on the girls when they're changing. You're gonna get all that shit. All that shit. I had in chat the Lunar #1 fan come and tell me how to play the game. He also had to tell me several times about how it was the funniest game and had the funniest characters and the best characters. So heads up for what you're jumping into, boys, if you're playing this game. So this game, I don't know what you would kind of call this category. I think you'll know what I mean. It feels kind of like it's got that a fantasy world that exists in a long dead science fiction world. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, and just from like basic screenshots, looking at it, it like screams like Fantasy Star.
Yeah, Fantasy Star is a really good description. I don't know what you would call that like category of the fantasy world that takes place in the ruins of a science fiction world.
It's like the post-apocalyptics.
Yeah, the society has regained itself, and maybe due to whatever changes, maybe people now have magic powers or something like that.
Ley lines and shit.
Yeah, you play as a thief, or at least it kind of implies that you're a thief, but you never really do any thieving in the game. It's like the opening is you stealing from ruins.
Street rat.
Yeah, like for your grandpa, who they don't get into like a lot of the personal of anything like that. It kind of looks like he runs like a Mad Max business or something like that, where you go out and you get junk from ruins, and he fixes it. And then the magic super tower that everyone can see from the distance, that is obviously like maybe a science fiction tower, starts to glow. So I guess because it's a glowing tower, you go to it, and then you find the magic girl inside that the plot is going to revolve around. She follows you around through a portion of the game as an NPC, where she goes from being the most useful person in the party to being completely useless. When you first get her, she almost acts as an escort, where you go through the level and she one-shots most everything. And then she gets like sick or something, and then she'll just sit there and actually steal experience from your party because she can't level up and you can't control her. A bit on the characters, it seems to have a pretty good balance of like, I gotta talk a lot. I'm very picky when it comes to my RPGs. It breaks my first rule of I want to make the characters, but you can't have that all the time. That's the best part. I don't know. Maybe is it just I like only Western RPGs like Wizardry and shit like that?
Well, Wizardry is Japanese produced, but
Was it?
Or what I might be getting it mixed up. Wizardry might be Western produced. No, it's. I'm trying to remember.
Light Magic is Western.
It might be. It might. Yeah, that's Western. I'm thinking like maybe Wizardry might be Western produced, but it became super popular. It became super popular in Japan. Is what it is.
Well, it's a moot point either way because post Pokemon is also known, you build your own party, you know. I love the mechanic where you get to choose who's in your party, not even necessarily in the monster catching sense, but where you get your characters and they're level 1 worthless guys, and you get to build them up and you get to decide like their flow and stuff like that. I don't know. You played a Dragon Quest game where you kind of do that. Dragon Quest kind of have that sometimes, but usually not super strong.
Dragon Quest mostly are you pick up team members as you go along, like a traditional.
Yeah. Well, sometimes what it has is like you can make them more of a group attacker or more of a single person attacker, but not a lot of room. But at least, even though it like completely builds all the characters for you, it does have a good balance. Though I did feel that the main character, this always sucks in an RPG, the main character always feels behind the rest of the party. I don't know if it's that I didn't grind early on or something like that, but he always feels like the weakest member. There was one member that, I didn't finish this game, mind you, JRPG, it's really long though. With all the delays that we had, I probably could have finished it. I just didn't. Fuck off. JRPG is long, and I wasn't that interested in doing it.
You were sticking true to the schedule. That's a limited time we give ourselves. You're being OG.
I'm just hardcore, whatever. Fuck good reviews. I'm hardcore. There is a character with a gimmick, and what it is he's luck-based, which, you know, a lot of RPGs will have, like, the luck stat, and for the most part, you ignore it. I don't know, how many games do you actually pay attention to luck? I can't think of any. Elder Scrolls, if you abuse it, you can. But I did find that it worked out to basically use it was a spell to actually do a random thing. Just whenever he's not healing or has something specifically to kill, I just did random rolls every time. And there was an off chance that it could just kill your party, but I assumed because I was, you know, putting stuff into his luck stats, specifically like the armor I gave him, made it so that it basically never happened where I got the everyone died, and more often I would get all the bad guys died. Concerning balance, you don't want anyone to be outshadowed. You want your party to all feel useful. To use Pokemon again, because Pokemon is just such a well-designed RPG. Don't you hate it when you got your party of 6, and then there's your 6th guy who you just don't use, or he's like the other situation guy? Maybe
number 6 has all the HMs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's not the HM slave, it's the one that you put in the PC to pull out the HM slave.
Look, and number 6 does have a use, okay? You throw it out so it dies, so you get a chance to heal the more important Pokemon's.
I don't know how you feel about grinding. What are your opinions on grinding in RPGs as to their importance?
My policy in a JRPG, in when I consider it grinding or not, is can I go through the, say, de facto dungeon level or whatever equivalent in the game, fight every single random encounter up until the end, and then once I reach sort of like the boss or whatever of that area or zone, if I can beat the boss in, like, say, 5 attempts, then I say that's pretty good. You know, that means you got your mobs out at the right times of randomness. That's not, you know, you're giving them the right amount of experience, right amount of difficulty. So that's kind of
feel that you should be able to walk through the dungeon and then fight the boss your first try.
Yeah, sort of my thing is I always require that if you have to go through the dungeon and fight everything or as much as you can at least once, going like every single random encounter.
Possibly, and then if you can beat the boss the first time, if you did like extra credit stuff.
Yeah, and if at that point where it still feels like the boss obviously just cannot be beat with your current stats or whatever, and then it feels like you have to grind, then I consider it as probably going too far. And then that's just a matter of how frequently does that problem arise, and then how much do I have to actually grind after the fact. Like, if it's just sort of like top off my levels, then that's not big of a deal. But if it's like I have to like almost like go through the dungeon, or if I have to go through like the dungeon like 2 or 3 times equivalent, then it's too many times. Yeah,
a lot of people complain about grind, and I think that grind has an important place in RPGs. It's part of growth. It's an RPG. Everyone's got to grow. They got to get better items. That's like what it's about. A lot of people will complain though about grinding, but they also, I don't think that people understand what they want, because they love, you know, MMOs and shit like that, which is they just grind and they do the same rate over and over, which is grinding. This game probably could have done with a little bit more grind. I did feel that I was clearing through things. However, I will say towards the end part of my segments, I was feeling like it was catching up with me. The fact that I didn't stay and grind in dungeons. It's almost like they either made the bosses too easy or I was outsmarting the bosses too well. So it started to feel like I was hitting a wall and I was having trouble getting just through the dungeon. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You figured out the boss's weaknesses, or you were able to beat them in your first attempt because you just understood the mechanics well enough.
I don't know.
So
Do you generally apply the same kind of amount of gameplay, like when you're in a dungeon? Do you like fight every random encounter in your first run through the dungeon? Right.
Yeah, well, my optimal like idea of grind comes actually from the first Final Fantasy. The opposite is actually, I will say, Pokemon Red Blue has some of the worst grind. But in Final Fantasy, it was a common thing. Like, I think of the second sort of dungeon you do, where, I don't know, I think you have to go like kill a vampire or something like that to go get some like magic herbs to wake up a prince. So there's the walk to the dungeon and then the walk through the dungeon. And it's kind of like first attempt, you go to the dungeon and back. Second attempt, you go into the dungeon and then down like a floor or two, and then you go back. And then third attempt, you can make it all the way to the end and probably fight the boss in like your third like path through. And it's like you push a little bit further each time as you gain levels and money so that you can pay for potions and stuff like that. I don't know how you feel about that. I kind of see that as almost like the optimal grinding situation. Able to run through most areas first go. There was a gimmick dungeon that did not provide enough experience. There's only scripted encounters in it, and all the scripted encounters you have to beat them in a certain way, like doing certain orders of spells, or like doing a spell to put the enemy into a different state, and then you can attack them. And what that did is it made the fights take like 5 times longer. But because it was almost a guaranteed win every time, as long as you knew what you were supposed to do, they weren't worth a lot of experience. So it was like a whole bunch of time you had to put in for really minimal output, which made it like kind of boring, and you had to go leave so you could grind a little bit. That was a really bad build, but that's one specific situation. So I would say it's hard for me to call because it might have gotten worse, but the amount of like effort you got to put in seemed on the lower side of what I feel is appropriate. Concerning though the grind is my kind of last point on the matter. What it really could have done with is, and maybe I just wasn't seeing them, is side or alternate quests or alternate dungeons. It had this sort of problem of the RPG corridor. I don't know. I can't think of any games that you would have played that has like the problem with you're in a corridor. Do you know what I mean by that? Where it's like you go to one town, you do the events in that town, then it's okay. Now you have the next town, which is really just like you travel in the valley to that town, and there's almost no other ways to go through, that passage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any specific examples, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII kind of has a problem with that, where there's not a lot of, you don't get a lot of times where you get to explore, and exploring is some of the fun. Going and finding the other stuff, getting the treasure chest that's off on the side. This didn't have like any of that, and that's probably its biggest failing. Other than that, kind of standard, but there are some interesting like odd bits that it has. So the first one is when you get into an actual encounter, it's not your standard default where it's what's it called? Just the split screen where it's like your guys on one side, bad guys on the other. It had like a semi-tactical board where your characters had a movement range, almost like I was gonna say like an action RPG, but those are completely free flowing. This was
like
almost like
strategy RPG.
Yeah, it's almost like it turned into a strategy RPG, except not on a grid. It was, I will say the fact that it wasn't on a grid was a little bit irritating, because it would be really nice to see like the area of effect of when you drop a fireball on something. But it's like you had a limited movement range, spells had a certain area that they hit, and enemies would move around and you could move around, which was pretty enjoyable. I thought it was a good mechanic because I never felt that it bogged the game down, which is something that could easily happen, is make it like slow down every battle a whole bunch. But in the end, when you started getting strong enough that you could just like fly through some of the fights, you could just hammer the attack button and get through them no problem.
I was gonna say, do you actually control your character's placement by moving around?
No, you select the enemy you go to, and they will make their way to it. And if they can't, they stop. And something that's even nicer is if they can't make it to the enemy, but there's someone along the way, they will attack the guy along the way. So they'll like run through someone on their way back.
I don't know, did you ever come into any problems where like you're gonna cast like a fire spell on one guy, but the guy that reflects fire was in the way, so you just so the dumb AI casted it on that guy and hurt him?
Nothing so comical as that, but
oh my god! Because as a small anecdote, playing SMT4 on the 3DS, you'll fight this boss, and this boss has like reflect fire, so one of your demons will use a fire and it reflects and hurts, and you're like, oh shit, okay, I won't do that again. But you have an ally who's there to like who like just spells in between your guys' moves just to help you out, heals or attack, whatever. But he would always do the fire spells, and he'd like show up and he'd be like, beware the power of my demons, and then cast the fire spell that reflects and hits me, not because he's a
he doesn't have health.
He doesn't have health, stats, or anything. He's just there to just throw in spells to help you. But he does the exact opposite. It hinders you the entire time.
There was one quirk though where doing the area effects was a little bit weird. It would have been nice to have like a little reticle or little footprint for where the area was, because it liked to favor sprites above your target as opposed to sort of the sprites below when it came to distance. It may just be like a visual problem, but it's really a minor problem that comes with it. Another thing I can tell that the people, when they were programming it, it was their first time working with that much data, because they're using CDs. Because holy shit, the like townspeople would have so many strings of dialogue. Like, okay, so you go to a town, right, in a usual RPG, and you go up and you talk to just like any old townsperson, all right, and they give you like maybe some generic, hey, welcome to the town text, right? Well, that person, depending on what state the game was, would have like 5 different things of dialogue, depending on like what has happened in the town at that time, even if it's kind of unrelated to them. And then you would have this for like 20 people, and it would do this for every town. So it's one of those things where if you're one of those paranoid people where you gotta like read all the lines of text off of all the people, you would have a fucking day. You'd have to go and talk to everyone after you did every minor event.
I kind of like that when it keeps the NPCs fresh. Not that I'm a hunter like for all content, but
here's a problem that came with it. When you're getting the second person in your party, all right, there is like a really long, mysterious line of something that you have to do, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what it was. It was one of those things where you got to talk to the same guy like 3 times in a row. I think that you have to leave the building and go talk to him again a couple times, and then go leave the building a 3rd time, and then he gets frustrated and then joins your party. Basically, yeah, it's really, and even the #1 fan was like, yeah, that part sucks. It doesn't make any sense, and I'm not sure what you're supposed to do. Just keep talking to him until he eventually joins. That's some
weird scripting.
Yeah, and it really does give you the idea, because what it is you talk to him like the first, one of those big cues is sometimes you'll talk to someone twice, and it's like, oh, well, this guy is obviously like a named NPC or whatever, because he'll have a special portrait that's unique to him. So you talk to him twice, and he gives you different dialogue, and you go, okay, I'll talk to him a 3rd time. And then it's like on the 3rd time, what he does is he starts gambling with you, but he always wins when you play evens odds, and he throws the dice. And it's like, you do it 3 times, and he keeps winning. So you go, oh, okay, maybe I'm supposed to do something, like I'm supposed to reveal how he does his trick or get someone who he's tricked in the past. So I go all over the town talking to everyone, and everyone's just telling me like where he probably is. I go back, I play the game with him like 3 more times. Same thing, he wins every time. I go, okay, I'll go like the church or like find some building that I've missed. Maybe there's a guy I missed. Look all over. I go back and I talk to him again. And then just the next line starts where he just helps me out.
That's weird.
And it was frustrating because it was one of those things where you just don't know what you're doing wrong, and you just got to poke around until it starts working. Only one instance of that. So that's one problem. Be aware of that if you do play this game. Just keep poking around. It's in like the first proper town you go to in like a desert area. Another thing that was nice, I know that you've complained about it in Pokemon. You're riding the bike, you're riding along, and then wham, you hit a wall, and you get that nice thumping sound.
You lose all your acceleration.
Yep. You get that nice thumping sound, or you're trying to go into a door and you miss it, or whatever.
You get the small little.
What this game had was so it had lots of diagonal rooms, which you can probably just imagine diagonal walls, but you can only move up, down, left, right. You can't move diagonally in this game, which is pretty surprising because you would think that it'd be able to have that kind of movement. Instead, you can do the like taxi cab distance of just, when you're going through a diagonal corridor of going like, you go left and then you go down, then you go left, down, sort of almost zigzagging or staircasing your way through. Or you can walk at the wall and the wall will kind of drag you along itself, taking you down, right? Didn't you imagine? I think Earthbound had that.
That, or I was going to say like when you're in some angles and like Link to the Past when you do the charge or whatever.
Yeah, that's a really good example. You could do the charge and then like run along a wall and it would drag you with it. That's cool and all, except it did it when you walked at a flat wall as well. It would have you like shift back and forth. So holy shit, if you missed a fucking door, you would wiggle back and forth. And then you have to back up, shoot for the door again, wiggle back and forth, back up, and then you shoot 2 or 3 times for the door and then you nail it. And it is pretty specific where you got to hit the door. If you hit the fucking corner of the door, you're not going in. You're going to go to the left or the right. So I like what you tried to do there, game, but you kind of fucked it up on the execution. It's hard to like really explain what's happening. I hope you can imagine it.
No, I was going to say another negative to that kind of feature is if you ever remember the fucking like ice rooms in Link to the Past.
Yeah.
Trying to like aim yourself just to enter a door, and you just be like, and you just sort of like do that run in place, but not really going anywhere.
Yeah, and then add to the comedic effect that you have 6 people following you, members of your party, and then just the like hanger-ons. So you got 6 people that are just like wiggling back and forth, being dragged by you as you try to enter a door.
Yeah. So if I can dial back when you're talking about NPC dialogue.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, probably the most frustrating thing about any sort of JRPG or just any game that requires you talking to specific NPCs for specific events is when they need you to talk to you twice, but you are given no indication that you need to physically like start the conversation again. So you don't know if you like need to do whether or not you need to start something scripted. So I was going to say, one game that I saw in gameplay that I think it's a small thing, but it's that kind of thing that you really appreciate is in the game Catherine, when you talk to NPCs, the sort of like speech bubble to talk is always colored if there's new dialogue available that you haven't expunged through. So once it turns gray, you know you've spoken all possible things that you could speak to them at the moment.
Yeah, and I think what they did by having a unique character portrait for the person is the next best thing of you going, this is someone who's important, and then you might just reflexively talk to them twice. Mm-hmm. What really sucks is when you're walking through a town or whatever, and then there's just the villager number 2 that has whatever it is that you need, But concerning dialogue, I'll go into my last point. Because I'm someone who doesn't give 2 fucking shits about plot. If you come into this stream and you tell me that you liked a video game because of its plot, you can fuck right off. Because you don't know shit. Don't tell me that video games are art. Don't tell me that a video game needs a good plot. I've played lots of games that have no fucking plot and are better than anything that's come out. But this will have cutscenes, and shit me, sometimes I just do not want to sit through 5 minutes. It's all voice acted, by the way.
I was going to say, is it actually sort of like anime FMVs?
Yep, it's got full FMV, cartoon animated, people talking. There's probably even some famous voice actor that I don't give a fuck about that some weeb loves. I don't care. I want to play the video game. Whenever the dialogue came up, I just wanted to set the controller down and like go get a beer or go do something else, come back and play it. I don't know. Maybe I just I just hate plot, but I wanted to play the video game.
I think you just hate plot.
I hate plot. You know what? Because if it was all text, at least I could hammer through it, or I could like skim read it, because that's what I was going to do anyway. Doesn't help that I'm playing it in a Gauntlet setting where I really don't care about the plot, even more so.
It's part of the game.
It's icing on the fucking cake. It's not part of the game. All right? It is. No, it's not even icing on the cake, because I consider that to be part of a cake. No, it's more like when you go to a bar and you order a Manhattan, and they're like, "Do you want a cherry?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a little manlet. I can drink it without the cherry. I do not need a garnish." That's what plot is in a video game. It's garnish. 100% optional.
You don't get the cherry?
No, well, I do get the cherry.
That's what I was going to say. I know you don't not get the cherry, but you get the cherry.
But I don't need the cherry. That's what, like, if he's out of maraschino cherries, I'm not going to cry. Right? Right. Okay. That's my game.
But besides, you need the cherry there, not necessarily because you need it or you want to taste it, but just so that people know you're drinking a Manhattan, so they think you're cool.
Manhattans aren't for cool people.
They're for people who want to be cool, though. So people know you got aspirations.
You got class. Overall, I enjoyed the game. It was a pretty fun game. It's a good RPG. If you're someone who's listening to this and you're like, hey, I'm looking for a new RPG that I haven't played, good chance you haven't played this one, and it is pretty good. If you can handle the cutscenes, if you can get through the opening, because it opens up with a cutscene, but I can tell you if this wasn't for the Gauntlet, I probably would have booted up this game, saw the opening, and I would have been just like, nope, I don't want nothing to do with this. Because you know what? I'm playing Popful Mail right now, and Popful Mail's got cutscenes, but the cutscenes aren't unbearable. These cutscenes are pretty, like, low-class unbearable.
Well, I was going to say, you were talking about how this game's, like, with its cutscenes are, like, anime as fuck, and I was going to say, Popful Mail can get pretty anime.
It gets anime as fuck, but you know what?
I mean, I like the plot for how the two how Popful and the wizard or whatever are hanging out. It's basically like Ash and fucking Misty.
Yeah. But you know what? It didn't have... Okay, let me put you in the world. It makes, like, Miami Vice jokes.
What?
It makes pop culture jokes.
Oh, I was going to say, are you talking about Eternal Blue?
Yes.
Okay, now that's weird. I was going to say Popful Mail, that kind of makes sense, because it's kind of, like, wacky.
Well, Popful Mail does have the air of, like, it's kind of self-aware of itself, you know? It has the dwarf who's shaved his beard and sports a whole new look because it's the new style. Mm. You know, I can roll with that. But this is, like, your Phantasy Star game where it's making, like, I think it had, like, a Jay Leno joke in there. I'm like...
What? Now you're making this game more interesting to me right now. I'm not talking about it.
I will say it's pretty sparse. It's sparse enough where it's just like it just didn't need to be there. It wasn't funny enough, and it's really dated.
Makes you wonder what was originally there.
Whatever Japanese comedian they were talking about,
or not even just like regular anime plot.
Yeah. No, it comes off as really unnecessary. Just like get out of there. It makes me feel like whatever, go away. And then the overall irritating levels of the characters. You know, you got your little pink furry flying cat that's got its high pitched voice. It squeaks and yells at you, and I don't want nothing to do with it. And we run the plot where the main character is attracted to the mystery girl, and the little pink cat is jealous of the mystery girl because the little pink cat likes the main character. Fuck off. I don't need to deal with it. I just don't need that awful writing. I'll take Popful Mail. You know what, dude? I like Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball. I like Hokyoto no Ken. I like lots of shitty things, but I couldn't handle this. If I skipped all the cutscenes, I'd be fine.
At least it wasn't made in an era where the localization would include internet memes. Just dumb pop culture references from television.
That's almost what it is. Instead, it's just dated jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, once you kind of brought it up, maybe it was put in there just by the translators. Because
that's what I was gonna say.
Maybe there was a pun there that doesn't translate.
Because they don't know how to make jokes.
Yep. So they just said, it's like in Miami Vice. I'm like, what? It wasn't. It was fucking weak. It was a weak joke, and it's dated. Get out of here. Number one fan, Lunar. Lunar. The entire series he was a fan of. I'm pretty sure. He also liked the Silver Star. He brought it up.
So he liked all of the 2 games that were in this series.
I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope you're proud of yourself having heard my opinions on these. I hope he finds this. Like, I'm sure he just searches Lunar all day and he finds it on YouTube. Because I'm going to have the tags for it. And he's going to be like, oh! Someone reviewed it. And I'll be like, fuck you, number one fan. You came to my stream and you didn't follow me. That's the only reason why I'm giving this game. This game gets a 0 out of 10. You didn't follow. Other than that, go play the game. It's pretty good. All right. So you played a super cool game with a super cool soundtrack, Septopus.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, you say soundtrack. That was the only song.
Are you fucking with me?
No, I'm not fucking with you. But before we get into it, let's actually talk about the game itself.
Do you think?
So anyway,
real quick. So I know for editing purposes, do you think I could put it in there without getting muted?
It shouldn't be an issue. It's posted online. It's not from his album. I don't think he even actually owns the rights to the song because I think he sold it to them, kind of thing. So don't worry about it.
Okay. It's just like what's it called? A comment on the video with a link to the video, or I'll actually maybe at the end of this recording, I'm gonna post in the song because it was incredible.
I mean, because you put on the song from Urban Chaos, and that's like an original soundtrack song.
Yeah, but I also cut it really short, so you know.
Just find the right moment where the lyrics start.
But you know, half of that song is the fact that the first like 30 to 40 seconds, it just sounds like it's a
sci-fi game.
Yeah, it's like I sat there and listened. I was like, I don't know what your problem is. I guess is it just that it's generic, and then wham, the lyrics hit you like a fucking train. Let's talk about your actual game, though. I hear it's hardly a game.
It has the potential to be a real game. Anyway,
it has the potential. You do know it's a finished game, right? It no longer has potential. It either is or isn't.
We'll take it one step at a time to explain it, because the game is in and of itself not really that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just obviously hampered by the sort of pressures of this sort of technology that it wants to put into it.
Yeah.
But I played Iron Helix for Sega CD, and I guess probably the best way to describe this game is to use another game from the Gauntlet that it's very similar to and compare it. Is the game Silent Debuggers that we played on the TurboGrafx. It's a game very similar to that. It's a first-person perspective that you're going through like space station corridors. You've got a sort of time limit. You're sort of racing against the clock. It doesn't really have shooting, but you are sort of like moving around like enemies and trying to keep aware of like sort of your environment of where they are, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it's very much, and it's got like complex maps and stuff. So it's in many ways, and also it's got like battery energy resource management.
Yeah, I'll put up like a link. I should have the Silent Debugger video up right now. So send a link probably to your segment talking about it so someone can refer to it.
So it's very similar to the game we played way back on that Gauntlet.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's also, since it's so similar, it also makes it readily apparent like how pointless and how unneeded now just dampening FMV is. Because this game is you're moving first person corridor by corridor, sort of grid based, but it has to do a full FMV animation for every step you take to do the thing.
Ouch.
So it's like, and on top of that, since this is Sega CD, not a computer game. This is a port of the computer game.
Yeah.
You're getting like increased load times. It takes more than a second to load, and maybe 1 second doesn't sound a lot, but when you have to do that every single time, it's just bearable. Just trying to move through this game is like moving not even through molasses, because at least molasses you're making constant progress. This is like sort of like you're moving through molasses, but every once in a while a crane comes and picks you up and moves you like a few inches forward.
Yeah, whenever you talk about how small amounts of time make a difference, I always have to bring up Banjo-Kazooie, and the fact that there's 100 jigsaw pieces to get in that game, and each one, every time you get one, Banjo does a dance, and that dance is 3 seconds long, unless it's the 10th one, in which case it's a 10-second dance, and it ends up being like an hour of your life you spend watching Banjo dance if you collect all 100. Let me see real quick in my head. So that's no. It's 5 minutes. 5 minutes of your life you will spend just watching Banjo doing the same dance over and over.
Someone should make a compilation video of every single time Banjo dances in the game. Just make it one video, cut it all together.
That's the reason why in speedrunning it's like it's a strategy to see how can we get Banjo to not dance, which is, you grab them when you're about to land in water and stuff like that. Trick the game so that you don't have to do the dance. But 1 second builds up when it's constant.
Yeah, so FMV animations for every screen transition are like unbearable because this isn't like a point and click game where you just click to the next screen kind of thing. Like it's not like Myst where you go to full maps every click.
Yeah,
it's you're just moving grid based. So God help you if you are getting frustrated and are pounding the forward button and then end up going forward twice when you actually just want to go forward once. Then you have to click backwards once, and you're clicking backwards because you're frustrated. So the basic premise of this game is you're in like the deep dank future, and these spaceships are about to like do like simulation war games, but something's gone haywire with the internal defense. It's like the internal defense robot killed all the passengers inside. So now the war game simulations are going to become real and destroy like a Earth-like planet or something, and we can't have that happen. But at the same time, they can't just send troops in there because the defender will like automatically kill anyone who enters the ship. So what it is you're controlling kind of like a unmanned sort of like robot, the kind of thing that that submarines have that have like a grabby arm. Oh,
do you remember what's it called, Descent?
Yeah, exactly. Descent's another good example. You're just kind of flying like that little robot around through everything.
No, I'm sorry. In Descent, you're actually in it.
Oh, you actually are manning the ship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. Go on.
But you know what I mean. It's like a small little thing, a small ship that's going through a big ship. And your job is basically to set off the ship's self-destruct. So, of course, the problem of setting up the ship's self-destruct system is, one, the defender will hunt down your little robot probe, so you have to avoid it. Mm-hmm. And two, all the doors are locked and DNA coded. So basically what you're doing throughout the game is you're sort of like trying to hunt for the right DNA samples for the right doors. So that way you can sort of eventually reach the end and find like the security codes.
Is the DNA sample, is it very placeholdery, as in it's just like go get blue key, except with a theme, or is it like you actually have to do a thing?
It's I would say it's kind of like Metal Gear security keys, where sort of like you're sort of trying to like climb up in like soldier rank, so that way you can get more access to more doors.
So it's a little more interesting than you kill the guard and he has the blue key, or you kill the guard and there's a swirling DNA above him and then you go collect it.
No, you have to do. You're doing sort of like a hide and seek to find the DNA samples because you don't find corpses. Finding these DNA samples so you can eventually find the room to deactivate everything is. The DNA sort of like scanner, it's hard to tell. So I read the manual for this, and it first says like the DNA scanner is like in the radial for your directional thing. So you sort of see like the arrow keys for all the things you can move, and then it's got sort of like a colored swirly thing around there. So I was like, oh, okay, there it is. That's the scanner. So it's gonna like get red when I see DNA, right? No, that's actually the enemy scanner for when the defender is getting close. So when it turns red, that means you're dead. But it actually is like in the sort of bright glowing sort of radial, there's sort of like this sort of like scratchy like pixels in like each of the cardinal directions of like that are like pointing there's DNA in that direction. So if you go forward and then the scratchy sort of like pixels are now in the bottom cardinal direction, you passed by it kind of thing.
So like nothing you could properly describe is where it is.
Yeah, so like the actual thing is So the actual sort of thing that's telling you when there's like DNA nearby, it's like very vague and small. It's like I'm like completely like mystified why they decided to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I actually kind of know because afterwards I looked up this game and I found like the sort of PC port of it, and the PC port of it has a much more like sort of like obvious like DNA scanner. Tells you not only if it's in front of you, it actually has all 4 cardinal directions, and it shows like sort of like a bar graph of like how it is in relation to you. So like if it's southmost, south is the highest, but if it's also southeast, east will be sort of some semi-high kind of thing. If you know what I'm talking about. So they just straight up cut that because this is the Sega CD port, so they don't have room for that.
Yeah, it's a tighter
but they
resolution.
certainly didn't do like a good job of like how to like do that efficiently, because they hide it in the exact opposite thing, the thing that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you actually want to get the DNA and you know where it is and you follow the vague sort of scanner, you sort of activate your robo arm, and so what it'll do is it'll do like a scan and it'll show you like the spot where the DNA is, since the DNA is always invisible on the screen otherwise. So you move the robot hand in that direction, grab the DNA, and then it tells you if it's, nothing special, like it's just non-human DNA. Never tells me what the non-humans are, but there it is. Or it'll tell you one of the crew members that it is, and whether or not it's useful. So basically what's this?
Wait, you were saying that it's got FMV every time you move? What exactly is it showing then? Because is it just showing like a little CG clip of the ship moving?
Yeah, it's basically animating you flying through the corridors of the space station, one grid at a time.
Yeah,
and goes, and so that's sort of the basic premise of sort of phase 1 of this game. Is you're basically sort of climbing up the rank until you sort of reach the sort of you only have room for 3 DNA samples at one time. So basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to climb up until you get all the most important ones that give you access to all the rooms. So eventually, this is definitely because of the difficulty I was playing on, but you can actually get like the first officer like almost immediately if you know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually like beat this first phase like really easily once you know like where everything is. Because I think there's sort of like very minimal randomness. Like each sort of like DNA sample has like 2 different possibilities of where it'll actually be, and I imagine it probably changes with each difficulty. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ones I found where the first officer one is, that opens up 90% of all doors, and all you need next is the captains after you get the first officers, and then 1 engineer's DNA sample. So once you get all 3 of those, it'll sort of give you off a buzzer like, congratulations, you got all the essential DNAs you need. Now it's time to find the self-detonation codes and find the codes that will destroy the defender robot that's chasing you around. Mm. Go through all the different computers real close, talking about, yeah, I got you the explosion codes. It's 2384. It'll be so awesome. Nothing but a peanut will be left of this ship. Excuse me.
Quality.
And with an explosion that good, you can know the top brass will like it, because there'll be no evidence. And they're just sort of like on specific computers. They give you 2 execution codes that you then once again have to go to the specific computers to enter those codes, otherwise they don't work. 1 is for detonating the ship, and 1 is for deactivating the defender robot. But you have to make sure you do them in the correct order, because if you do the self-detonation first, the defender robot sort of like does like a automatic shutdown of the system. Mm-hmm. And then so you have to basically go across the entire stage to deactivate the robot first. Then you get 5 minutes to sort of deactivate the ship entirely. Is how phase 2 goes. And then once you do that, you beat the game. It's a very short game, very simple.
Oh shit! I thought you were explaining that. I was like, so, and then you go to the next ship, right?
No, that's literally it. No, that's it. That's the game. Yeah. You can once you know where the DNA samples are. It took me like 2 hours to beat this game, but once you know where the most important DNA samples are, you beat this game in 30 minutes easily. And 30 minutes is because it takes so long to watch all the FMVs load.
This game is sounding like
it's to show off FMVs cool graphics more so than like, you know.
Yeah. The gameplay itself sounds almost like if someone heard the gameplay and thought it sounded really cool. There's lots of Unity games, Unity horror games, where you have to hide from.
get the sheets of paper and hide from under.
Yeah,
it is kind of like
like
it is kind of like that. You have a sort of mini map that has the radar that tells you when the enemy's close, kind of like a sound cues in like one of those Slender games.
Yep.
So it's basically you're avoiding them while collecting all the necessary evidence. Yeah, you're kind of right. It's very much like a Slender game.
Yeah, the Slender games are the most kind of, I think, well known, but you know they come in every flavor. I'm sure you can get Evil Ghost flavor. You can get you could probably get a Jason Voorhees flavor.
I was gonna say like
something bad.
Clock Tower is kind of like that.
Yeah, where there's the guy chasing you with the scissors, and you got to go find the things.
Yeah. So I mean, all in all, if this game was like running on like fucking pixels, like silent debuggers, if it was like if you like sort of like reprogram silent debuggers but use the same navigation, like in that, this would be a good game. And you know, it obviously has this game has 5 difficulties for a reason, because you're obviously supposed to like play all the different like difficulty levels because they changed the map around, not the actual map itself, but just all the DNA, geo, and external locations.
Yeah.
So this game is basically all of the FMV shit is just hampering this game down and making it worse. And I'll give you another example of how obviously, you know, pointless this is. Number one is the actual defender ship that you're hiding from. You rarely actually see it. It's very hard. You'll only actually see it if you like force yourself to appear sort of directly in front of it at a door, because that's like the only places where they like actually did like a cool prefab animation for the defender to shoot you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you just happen to be in the same room as the defender bot, even if it's around the corner, you just kind of die. So you have to like you wait until it enters another room, even though you know sort of like logically it's around the corner. I should be able to like, you know, zip by quick enough. I mean, quick enough with the FMV loadings, but that like, you know, so that thing kind of moves like one space for every 3. Another point where the FMVs just obviously are hindering the game is there's this point where you're in a bathroom, where there's bathrooms in this space station, and in the bathrooms there's mirrors, and when you face the mirror, you see your little robot. You're like, oh, cool, there's my robot reflected in the mirror. So I'm like, I'm gonna like activate my hand and like wave to myself. No, you think they wasted their time doing a full animation of that?
Yeah.
And what happens is when you activate your hand, it's not like what I would have expected was the hand would show up and there'd be no reflecting, and you'd be like, okay, whatever, it's just a pre-baked image of myself in the mirror. But no, they actually deactivate your hand whenever you're looking at a mirror.
Fuck off.
It says hand cannot function here, and it gives you no explanation, but you know why. It's because they're embarrassed that they didn't do full animations for the mirrors.
Shit, they could have cut down on other animations, i.e. the moving between like tiles animation, and use it just for the mirrors, and that would have been cool looking, you know? If they did like a side angle of it or something.
They'd probably have to do like a, you know, like a sort of like a 6x6 grid of animations for this thing, and you know, it's probably for the best that they just said fuck off, we're not going to make this, because probably the loading times for each movement of the hand would probably like take forever, and thankfully the hand itself is not sort of like FMV loaded. It is like pre-rendered on 3D,
yeah.
but it's not an actual FMV animation for its movements, so it doesn't like take loading time to actually move it. It just moves completely in real time once you activate it. But yeah, so it's just, this game, it's like it could have easily just been like a cool, decent 7 out of 10, like race against the robot, whatever sort of minigame thing. But all of this time and effort is just wasted in all these FMV animations, which then, speaking of which, talking about, you know, taking advantage of the Sega CD's capabilities, we now have to talk about the music.
Oh, I forgot that was a thing. All right, let's go.
So this game's sound design is done by one guy. I think his name is like Peter or something. But the point is the name of his like his sort of band is Exorcist with the X being just there, no E. and you go to this guy's website, and it talks about how Exorcist set new musical standards in the electronic music scene with its unique blend of industrial, cyber gothic, and sonic soundscapes. But there's no actual music in this game, no ambient music. Only just one song that plays a little bit in the beginning and then plays in full during the credit sequence. That's like that is the power of the Sega CD. It's like we've got one original song from Exorcist, the cyber gothic.
Wait, so it only plays at the beginning and the end. So is it just mostly silent during the game itself?
Yeah, there's no real music in the actual game.
Well, that's better than I was imagining. I was imagining that song played on the loop.
Thank God I'm not actually listening to this awful song by Exorcist, the Iron Helix official theme, where it's got like the screaming like, "You are on a spaceship, you are all alone." And the worst part of this game is when you win, it's bad ending, no matter what. I won the game, and the final FMV you get is sort of like the sort of General Arbok says, "Good job on, destroying the ship. Now come to our quarters where you will be debriefed and rewarded." So, of course, the shocking twist is, oh no, it's like in the ending of Brazil, of Terry Gilliam, where they make you brain dead or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's what happens. You save the world, and then you get brain dead. Cool game.
To cover up the evidence.
To cover up the evidence. So
well, maybe if you play it on the hardest mode, you do a cool escape.
I mean, maybe, but I'm not interested to find out. Yeah. But I guess winning the game and giving you a bad ending, I guess that's very cyber gothic. Yeah, you gotta see the picture of this guy. He's got like fake little devil horns and a little pube goatee going on. And I think he's like wearing like a multicolored eye contact in one eye. and he's got a vampire bat bolo tie.
Yeah, I see this like you're describing this, and I see it as like a still image in what's it called? In an Epic Mega Games game. Like do you remember Tyrion? How you would like talk to you'd find the like communications. It would have like the still image of like a guy and be super fucking pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? I'm imagining that.
I was gonna say not that, if not that, was it Baldur's Gate? They had all the ridiculous character portraits. Yes, he could be a Baldur's Gate character.
I don't see that.
Here, I'll send the image to you now, and you can like post it somewhere right on the actual podcast.
Great.
Yeah, this guy's cool. Gotta love that vampire bat bolo tie.
Yeah, it makes me think of Descent a lot too, though. Of the like, you're traveling through a thing, and you gotta go blow up the space station. Except Descent was good, and it was like. But
the thing is that thing's gameplay isn't pre-rendered FMVs. It's just rendered 3D graphics.
It's full 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have more to say about your game? I'm sure do you got a sterling review for it?
I have one brief thing is upon actually seeing the PC gameplay of this, the FMVs are obviously loading at a much faster time. Mm-hmm. So if you want to play this game, find like a PC emulator. I bet it runs in DOS. I'm not sure, but it probably does just fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to play this game, play the PC version. It has all the better visuals, and it runs faster. So I mean, hardly the worst game I've ever played, but it's very much a sort of testament to sort of all the worthless sort of like new technology at the time that just obviously is not making the gameplay better.
Yeah. Well, then do you want to take a short moment, because FMV is like a thing. It was I didn't even know what to say it was, but I like FMV. I like it as a concept, but I think as soon as we got the technology to do it, it was so abused, and now it has an awful reputation for being awful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it works in a lot of situations. It's great in Myst. It adds because here's the thing is that Myst has all their pre-rendered scenes, so when you move from area to area, it's not like this slow drag of going to the next area. It just cuts you to the next screen. And then Myst games are so barren, like especially I'll talk about Ribbon. And then there'll be a person on your screen, and it's like, holy shit, something's moving, and it really adds to the allure of the game. Or we brought up Wing Commander, and I brought up Dune. What are your stance on that, or is it the full let's fuck FMV entirely?
I kind of throw FMV under the bus. I mean, nowadays you could do fully animated videos of live action otherwise, and it's not an issue really anymore. So it's like I can't like say like, oh no, don't make any FMV games or whatever, because it's not, because the technology is no longer an issue. I mean, already what's the guy's name who does like those like goofy cyberpunk detective games? He just did a new game and with live action acting, and I mean it's not an issue.
Yeah, Tex Murphy series, are you?
Yeah, Tex Murphy. He did
still bumping around.
No, he did a game where he kickstarted it, and it was fully live action thing, just like he always did. And in fact, I think you actually probably own the game and you don't even know it because you bought the Tex Murphy pack, right?
Somewhere, but I've never entered it, and I don't know where I saved it to.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure that came with the latest game as well.
Yeah.
So, and so the load times aren't an issue anymore. So it's like I can't be angry about it now. But all the games, but there are so many games in the past that just should not have existed. Okay, we did not need Chris Cross to make my video. Okay, we did not need that awful like basketball game where you have to do like 3 shots and against the guy who's trying to block you. You can't tell because it's an awful like animated GIF of a person
or
with their hands around.
Even worse, the boxing game. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do with a boxing game that's live action?
Yeah, it just becomes Simon Says, the most complex that those games could ever be.
All right. Well, let me follow that up though with a question that I'll pose to you. What if there was a game, it was made in FMV, and it was a Metal Gear Solid game?
Oh boy.
Would you accept a FMV Metal Gear Solid? I'm gonna have a follow up to that, especially if you say no. Would you take an FMV? How much do you want that?
I don't want it at all. I don't know why you think I want that.
But what if it was using the cast of Escape from LA?
Look, hey, you know what? If you're gonna do that, just give me a Metal Gear movie with the cast, okay? Okay. FMV games, this awful like chimera of movie and game. Just give me the movie.
Do you want Escape from Toronto? And we'll get the cast back. We're gonna have a big reunion, and we're gonna have a game of it, and we'll have Escape from Toronto. Do you want that?
I want a movie, and it wouldn't be Escape from Toronto. The planned sequel that never came out was supposed to be Escape from Earth.
Well, that sounds pretty rad.
He escaped from New York, then he escaped from LA. Now the ending of Escape from LA is Snake Plissken, because he's a badass who doesn't care about anything, activated the ultimate global EMP device that turned the entire world into a place that cannot use electricity ever again. Because he's a badass like that. So obviously the sequel was, well, now this whole world's uninhabitable and everyone's gone chaos and anarchy. So I'm going to leave the planet. So do I want Escape? Do I want the official sequel, Escape from Earth? Yes. Do I want an FMV game? No. Just give me the movie.
I think there's a lot of potential there. I think we're done with the Sega CD horse right now, though. You got a closing statement? I think you already mostly gave it. Let's
take a break away from anything that might have FMVs in it.
Yeah, and Sega CD, I think it was good. Once again, this either we can call almost like the end of the first season of this, or the start of the second, whatever. I don't give a fuck. It's episode 11, I think we're sitting on. So, but I think, do we both agree? Go back to NES. It's kind of simple, and you're more likely to get an acceptable game.
Yeah, let's go back. And you have to give me our cool new friends website so I can do the roll.
All right, yeah, I'll shoot it at you. Bang! It's on the RGG Lasagna cloud.
Seriously? That's sick.
Check this link.
Amazing.
Right. Are you going to do the countdown?
All right, 3, 2, 1, click.
Oh, I have to reroll.
What happened?
I got Castlevania.
Oh,
I played Castlevania. Spoilers, it's a good game. And it's got some stiff jumping controls. Spoilers, I can beat it in 1cc, so I'm not going to play this game. Unless, do you want to trade games? I don't know how much you've done Castlevania.
no, I've played most of it. I don't need that.
Okay.
Mine, because mine's interesting.
Watch me get Mega Man 3. No, mine's not interesting. I got Monopoly.
No, not the NES Monopoly. That one fucking sucks.
Oh no!
I know that one. It fucking sucks. I've seen it. You will not. You will not have fun with that one. It's just well. I mean, it's just imagine the game Monopoly. Only you have to deal with fucking NES menu navigations.
Should I just Is it just a shitty game of Monopoly? Like, I can review Monopoly right here. I've played Monopoly several times. It's kind of an alright game.
It sucks because everyone forgets the sort of rules, and no one wants to actually play with the rules. No one wants to auction because they're all afraid.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Do I
afraid.
reroll this one? Because it's just like gonna not.
I'm gonna say just reroll it. I mean, let's
be honest,
Yeah.
All right, this one probably is interesting. I got Enkoku Shinwa, the Dark Myth. That sounds like it'll be interesting.
Now, what I got is Rockin' Cats.
Rockin' Cats.
Rockin' Cats. So what I was expecting was a really awful video game involving, just like cartoon cats or whatever. So I looked it up and I was right. But what's interesting about this game is that it's produced by Atlas.
Oh, shit.
So it's like, that's a really weird development thing. I would not expect it to have been Atlas. So I'm actually curious to see what this game's actually like. Maybe it's actually good, so we'll see.
I'm looking at mine. I think mine is based off of an anime. I'm getting some crazy fucking pictures when I do a search for it. I'll give you the just straight, here's a Google image search, so you're going to get a big link right here. Bam. Interesting shit, just in this search bar. So we'll see what happens with this game. It might be really cool. So we'll see what happens with these two games. I think we rolled up some winners. All right. Well, I think that's all we got to say. Is this goodbye so soon?
Sounds like it.
All right.
I was going to say, speaking of us almost having to use the Russian roller for the game Gauntlet, it looks like a Russian Let's Player already got this on their Gauntlet roll. Because I saw in related image searches the YouTube video icon for it.
Yeah, no, he's an internet superstar in Russia. I just wish he would spread the love around.
He gets 80,000 views.
I know, that's like all of Russia. Hey, everyone who's from the Russian Retro Game Gauntlet, come over here. Come over here, because it's better.
You got the cheeky breaky.
All right,
Yeah.
but this is what we got for the podcast.